Hello again. Welcome back to We Are Wool People. My name's Ailsa, and on this channel we talk about knitting. Thank you for joining me again today for another podcast episode. Welcome. I hope that you are all well, and I hope you're really enjoying your own knitting and that you've got something to work on right now, because we've got a lot to get through. The last couple of weeks, been 3 weeks I think since I uploaded an episode, and there has been a lot going on around here. So cozy on in and grab some knitting, get yourself a drink, and let's sit down and have a chat about knitting. I think what we'll do as usual is I'll start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing a knit called the Blue Shimmer, and this is an authentic Bohus knitting pattern, and I actually knitted it from a kit that I bought from the Bohus Steeking website a couple of years back. It was a very, very special treat. I think my husband might have bought it for me for Christmas. And I absolutely loved knitting this pattern. It is entirely knitted on 2.5mm needles, and I think I actually might have gone down to a 2mm needle for the ribbing. And the yarn is from the woman who owns the company, the Bohus Steeking company. She runs the museum, and she revitalised all the patterns from the Bohus Steeking museum in Denmark. And this yarn comes from the fur of her own rabbits that she grows and maintains on a little farm in Denmark. I've been eyeing off these kits since I almost first started knitting in the early 2000s, and I was looking at them, I remember, in kit form prior to the company going under, and then Fruity Knitting featured them on one of their episodes a couple of years back, and Andrea from Fruity Knitting was making the wild apple version of this style of pattern, and I was very heavily inspired, and I really went back to how much I really liked the patterns, in the early 2000s. Anyway, I got this kit for Christmas from my husband as a very special treat, and it really was a very special knit. But I mentioned in my last podcast that, in fact, even though I'd finished it and had it all cast off, it was a fail, and I'd never worn it, because in my haste to finish, I'd made the sleeves way too short and the body a little bit too short too. And I said in my last podcast that before I cast anything else on, I was going to fix this knit, and I did. And I was really happy that I did, because I got to wear it at the Fiberfest yarn festival in Wyong a couple of weeks ago, where I hosted the fashion parade. That event's run by the New South Wales Knitters Guild, and every year, well, it's the second year that they've run it in Wyong, and I hosted the fashion parade, and I wore this, and I was really I felt really great in it, and a lot of people asked me about it, and it was really quite exciting, and I was very proud to wear it. So all I did really to fix it was I unravelled the rib on the sleeves, took it back to where the rib had started, knitted a couple of centimetres further down, and then did the rib again, and I did the same thing for the bottom. I knitted an extra, I think probably this, you can actually see because the tension's slightly different. I knitted an extra 5 or 6 centimetres on the bottom and then put the rib on. It's quite oversized, which is nice, because it's nice and comfortable, and it's an easy knit. I will say something funny though. When I undid the cast on around the bottom, imagine my delight when I realised that it wasn't knitted in the round, it was seamed from underneath the underarms. I'd completely forgotten that was the construction of the pullover, and therefore got a bit of a shock. I must have just been in the mood to, follow the pattern religiously, because the pattern is written like that. I found the pattern, and I went back and looked and went, oh, it is knitted in the round in the yoke, and then when it divides for the underarms, it's actually knitted in 2 pieces, front and back, and seamed down the side. The other thing is that it's got this really great and very well fitted raglan shaping, an end that I haven't, ignore that. It's got raglan shaping down the side, which gives it a really good fit. And I have talked about this before because my pochiola that I knitted doesn't fit that well, and I am going to, for my next trick, go back to that pochiola, take it back to the yoke and fix it, because I feel like I am going to get some wear out of this in the winter of 2024 in Australia that will not die. Every day I get up and go, oh, it's going to warm up, but it actually hasn't warmed up that much. And as a matter of fact, I'll put some footage in just quickly. We've had some terrible storms here lately. It's been absolutely freezing. It's not even warm now, and it's almost November. So, go figure. I also said in my last podcast that I wasn't going to cast on anything new until this was done and the pochiola was fixed. Well, I lied. Because I do actually have a new cast on that is in fact also a finished object. So, well, hey, look at that. Now, let me show you what it is. Here it is here. And this is it's called the Basic Boatneck Tank from True Summer Knits, Maddie at True Summer Knits. It's her first pattern release, and I like her. I think she's super cute. So I decided I was going to support her and knit her pattern. You can actually get this pattern for free. She has got I'll put a link up on the screen, but she's got on her Ravelry page for this pattern, it's a pay what you want pattern. So you can either take a 50% reduction or a 100% reduction and obtain this pattern for free, because I think she'd like to establish her designs. This pattern was very well written. It's called the Basic Boatneck Tank. It is, like it says on the packet, a basic boatneck tank. I made one modification, and the modification I made is that I didn't do her, she's got a non-rolling treatment of an I-cord edge that is supposed to go around the armholes and across the neckline. I did her non-rolling treatment across the neckline, but in the armholes, because I was obsessed with that treatment that was on the Vest Claire, that I wanted to do it again. So I actually did the stockinette pickup where you just knit a few rounds of stockinette and then fold it back onto itself, and then crochet hook the inside or crochet chain the inside down with the wrong side facing, to give what I think is I was obsessed with it last fortnight and I'm still obsessed with it now. I think it just gives such a professional clean look and makes it look store-bought. It's got a rolled hem on the bottom with a pearl row, and I used a crochet hook again to sew the rolled hem down. Let me show you so I can get that for you. I used a crochet hook again to sew the rolled hem down, and it does give a line all the way around, but I actually don't mind that. I think that's good, because what it does is it stops the bottom from flaring, and it actually keeps the bottom of the tank with the structure and the proper size that it's supposed to be. So I think that actually improves the fit of it. I don't mind it. I think in Maddie's pattern she tells you to sew it down, and when she does it, it would be completely invisible. But I think that because it's so straight and so even all the way around, that it actually looks really good. And I knitted this in the 100% cashmere yarn that I bought from Temu. Give me a sec. Temu, I don't know. Anyway, regardless of anyone's opinion about whether or not it's appropriate to use the Temu website or import yarn from China, as this is Temu cashmere. Now, I bought it mostly because I really was curious as to whether in fact it was real cashmere, and whether it would actually arrive, whether it was a scam, And I ordered it, and I got 6 balls of it for about $36, I think. And I mentioned before, it comes with, each ball comes with a spool of thread that you are supposed to hold with it, and a spool of elastic that you are also supposed to hold with it. I didn't hold the elastic. Well, actually, I started it holding the elastic thread in as well, but it's really thin, and it got really tangled, and it was a pain in the neck. So I dropped that fairly early on in the piece, and I did keep this thread, keep holding this thread with it all the way through, because this thread gives it strength. This yarn, I'll just show you. That's the yarn. It's very fine. It would be a very light fingering, and actually perfect for that pattern. But if I pull it like that, it just breaks immediately. It literally barely any pressure on it. It's probably a little bit like using an unspun yarn. I didn't want to have to be concerned with that, so I held this yarn with it, which is much stronger, and I imagine probably got a bit of nylon in it, I'd say. Anyway, together holding them led to a really lovely fabric. You did have to be a bit careful because sometimes the thread got tangled or was not always smooth and in a single strand, and so there's a few little bobbles here and there. But still, it's really lovely, very, very soft, and I think a great layering piece for summer or for spring. A little bit more elevated than a really floppy sheer sleeveless top, and you could definitely layer something over the top of this. It's extremely soft for 100% cashmere, and what I would really like to do is I would really like to compare now this cashmere with a more expensive cashmere, like for example Cardiff cashmere, which I've never seen, and don't really have the budget to stretch for buying it in a sweater quantity for sure. And because I have to get it from Europe, if I bought one ball of it and then paid postage, again, exorbitant price. In terms of softness, what I would compare this with, for example, would be I was trying to think of something that might be accessible to viewers and might be something that they'd seen before that was pure cashmere. So I'm guessing if you live in an urban area or a city or near a city, and it's got a shopping centre, chances are that shopping centre worldwide may have a Uniqlo. Uniqlo being a ubiquitous Japanese clothing shop that is everywhere in Australian shopping centres, Japanese shopping centres, and I imagine it's definitely in Europe, and I presume it's in America as well. Anyway, this, and they are known for having very well priced 100% cashmere staples, pullovers, little cardigans and whatnot. So this is a Uniqlo cashmere pullover, and it's 100% cashmere, and these run at about $130 or so. This Temu cashmere is easy, twice as soft as this 100% cashmere jumper from Uniqlo. And the cashmere jumper from Uniqlo is quite soft. So just to give you an idea that this feels extremely luxurious, and for $36 for 6 balls, and that used less than 2, it's a $12 100% cashmere tank, which, you know, it's cheap, isn't it? I imagine someone's paying, someone in Mongolia, I'm sure. If it even is cashmere, who knows? It's hard to know. It does burn away to ash. It does have a burnt hair smell, and there is no gummy or plasticky residue after it's burnt. So it's 100% animal fibre from that, if that's a test, and it is. I don't know if it's cashmere or not. basic Boatneck tank from True Summer Knits, Maddie. It's her first pattern. It's really beautifully written, and you can get the pattern for free, or you can sling her $5 to encourage her to design more, and I recommend. That is it for finished objects. Last time I spoke to you, I had finished one sleeve of the Alma cardigan and needed to do another sleeve. I have since done 2 Alma cardigan sleeves. Now this is steeked, so it looks very weird because I haven't cut the steek. So right, here it is. I'll show you the back because the back's not steeked. There is the back of the cardigan, and there is one sleeve in its very unblocked and shambolic state, and there is the other sleeve in also its unblocked and shambolic state. And there is the button band, which I've started picking up for the button band, which goes all the way up one side, around the neck, and all the way down the other side. But in the middle, as you can see, through the centre of the cardigan, there is the steek. Here is steek. Now, steeks exist so that when you're knitting a cardigan that you never have to purl. You can knit the entire garment in the round with a set of stitches down the centre that are like stunt stitches that you don't need. And when you've finished knitting your cardigan, you cut them up the centre and you do something down each side to stabilise them, and then you fold them back. And if you were a true Shetland knitter with using a Shetland sticky wool, you'd leave it. But this is a superwash yarn. This is Bendigo Woolen Mill Luxury 8-ply and Bendigo Woolen Mill Prism, and they are both superwash yarns. So a crocheted, one of the methods of stabilising your steek stitches on either side is using a crochet stitch. That won't work for a superwash yarn because the slippery superwash yarn will just pop out from under those crochet stitches. Another method that I saw that my friend Jane, who works at Skein Sisters, did, she actually needle felted hers, which I thought was genius actually. But that won't work for this either because this won't felt. The only thing that has to be done to stabilise a steek for a superwash yarn, which is not an ideal yarn for this pattern really, for this kind of thing really, is on the sewing machine. And you do 2 rows of sewing on the sewing machine up the steek edges, and you do it with a really small stitch, and you do 2 rows of it so that lots and lots of these little fibres are caught in that sewing machine stitch and they won't come apart. And then you can cut down the centre and decide what you're going to do to cover your steek stitches. What I'm going to do to cover my steek stitches, I'm going to use this grosgrain ribbon that was saved when I bought a blanket or a doona or something, but it was saved from the packaging of something that I bought online. It was definitely bed linen. And it's a great colour, perfect colour. Perfect colour. And I'm going to use this grosgrain ribbon to sew down the steeks. I'm going to do that tomorrow, and I am going to video it, and I might put it up as a short, but definitely in next week's video. That will be a finished object and it will have the steek completed. This pattern is called the Alma Cardigan. It's a pattern from Sana & Co, Susanna Cartinen, who made a special guest appearance. Let me just hold it up still, will I? Yes. There it is. Susanna Cartinen made a guest appearance at Fibrefest last Sunday. She came down to man the stall with Katrina from Pirate Pearl Yarns, and I was able to get Susanna's designs and samples in the fashion parade, so that was great. I think it went well. I'll put a little bit of B-roll in of the parade. It was way better organised this year than last year. We had a proper running sheet. All the vendors were given something quite standard to write the week before, and my great friend, Donna, really helped me so much. She was backstage and she got everybody in order and marshalled them out in the correct order for all the for the flow of the show. It was good. I enjoyed it, and I must take this opportunity to thank the people who did come up and say hello to me. I was really touched. And my husband was with me, and he doesn't normally come to these things, or if he does, he doesn't usually pay much attention. And he was very surprised that there were people who said, "Oh, I watch your podcast. Nice to meet you." And so that was really touching. That was fantastic. And as a segue into that, I don't normally say this in a podcast, but I am going to today. So if you're watching this podcast and you like it, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. It's a micro channel. It's a slow grower, and I would really love it if you would subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content. Oh, that's right. Well, that's what I was going to say. So Sarah from Two Pearls in a Pod, who's just now one pearl in a pod because Paige is travelling overseas. She did an episode earlier in the week about her summer knitting plans, and she was talking about the opportunity cost of each knit, which I liked, because she was saying, when you choose to knit something, you have to choose carefully, because for the time that you spend on what you're knitting, you're missing the opportunity of knitting something else that you might like more. And I feel like this Alma cardigan, when I decided to make one when we were in Bendigo in July, I'd already done my autumn-winter knitting plans. And this, at the time, wasn't on those plans, and yet it's jumped the queue, gotten on the needles and almost finished. And also my pochiola wasn't on the plans for the autumn-winter knits for 2024 either. And so the opportunity cost of making those two items has been my Joanna Ang ribwave cardigan, pullover rather, and my Priscilla cardigan. And now that these two are finished, it's not like I'm sorry I made them, but I do feel sad that the opportunity cost of those two other items that got bumped from the queue and didn't get finished for autumn winter are still sort of languished around as whips. But I'm a shark and I only go forwards. I don't really like going backwards, which is why it took me nearly 2 years to fix this. So I am absolutely telling you, my pledge to you listeners is I am going to finish those two knits, and I'm going to finish those two knits before the end of 2024, which leads me into my plans for the rest of 2024. Only about 8 weeks left, really, roughly, before the end of the year. And one of the things that I'll be doing in the next 8 weeks is I'll be moving, I think, to Queensland. And where I live now is about an hour and a half south of Sydney. I digress here into a bit of life business, but anyway. My husband has just accepted a job in the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, which is roughly 2,000 kilometres away from where I live. So he actually starts that job on the 17th of November, and next week we're going up there to find somewhere for him to live immediately from the 17th of November. I am going on extended leave from my job at the end of this week until the beginning of February, when it'll be time for us to decide whether I'm going to go up there permanently as well, or whether I'm going to continue and go back to my full-time job, and we do a bit of toing and froing over the next couple of years until it's time for me to retire, which is not really that far off. Anyway, so that was a bit of a bombshell. That's been quite sudden, and I'm still sort of coming to terms with it. I'm pretty apprehensive. I'm a bit worried about being really lonely up there, and I've got my family down here, and my lifelong friends down here and all my knitting friends and all my sort of networks down here. But by the same token, it's really beautiful up there, and I love an adventure. I've lived overseas, I got married overseas, and I've always felt like I'm a little bit nomadic. So, you know, I'm really, on one hand, some days I go, oh, I can't wait for this adventure, and other days I go, oh, wait, I can't go. But anyway, let's see what happens. So next week I'm going to be up in the Sunshine Coast. What's happening around here? If I do end up moving, I'll do a stash video because it's going to have to get packed up, right? And I've only just gotten this room into a state that I love. This is my daughter's bedroom, and we repurposed it into my craft room when she left home a couple of years ago. So I've only just got it to a state where I absolutely love it, and now I might have to leave it. It's life, isn't it? You got to do it. Better than the alternative, that's for sure. Anyway, that's what's happening for the rest of the year for me. I'm moving to Queensland. So if you're on the Sunshine Coast and you're watching this, and would you leave a comment and let me know, are there any knitting groups up there during the day? Because I'll have some time on my hands, and I do want to meet some new people and make some friends up there. I'm planning on joining a gym and a book club and a yarn club or knitting group, and hopefully that will help me make some connections up there when we go. So that's our exciting news that's happening around here. So that leads me to think about my summer knitting plans. I don't really have that many summer knitting plans. Again, like Sarah was saying the other day on her, on Two Pearls in a Pod, she was saying that she's not much of a summer knitter because she knits in summer. She's not much of a summer garment knitter because she doesn't have a beachy lifestyle. Well, it's funny because I actually do have a beachy lifestyle, and I live on the coast, and I'm heading to Queensland to live literally right on the coast. But the thing is about an Australian summer is that in the height of the Australian summer, knitted anything is too hot to wear. Even knitted cotton t-shirts. You can Tolster tee all you like, but if it's knitted in a 4-ply or above thickness of yarn, even if it's 100% cotton, it's too hot to wear outside in the day. Now, we do spend a bit of time in air conditioning, and the other thing is that a factor that we have to take into consideration is sun protection, because even though I do have a very, very beachy lifestyle, I definitely am not going to let that sun kill me, literally. So sun protection is, you know, really at the forefront of most of your choices when you choose what you're going to go wear at the beach. So the other thing about summer knits is that you think that they're going to be, you know, really quick and, you know, let's have a little palette cleanser and I'll whip up a tank or I'll whip up a t-shirt because it's just going to take 5 minutes. Well, they don't. They take a lot longer than you think they're going to. You get bogged down in the endless stockinette of very fine gauge projects, which is enjoyable. It's very meditative, but you know, they're not as quick as you might think. So having said all of that, I still do want to make a couple of things for summer, and I've got the prospect of having more time to knit on my hands because I'm going on extended leave from my job. And so one of the things I definitely am going to knit is, this is my Sabai top that I knitted in Creme K Morning Salutation, which, have you noticed out there on the YouTube channels that there's a lot of Creme K Morning Salutation suddenly being stocked by shops and used by people? I feel like I was ahead of the game there. So this Morning Salutation, I bought a couple of extra balls of it from This Lush Corner at the Fiberfest last week, and I'm going to make a pair of shorts to go with this, so I'll have a little set. And you know what else? I think this is so soft once it gets washed a few times because it's got the bamboo in it or the tencel in it. This would make a really nice set of pyjamas. And even though it'd be a bit of knitting, I think it'd make a really cute gift for a teenager or, you know, a young girl, or even a little set, like a mum and bub set. I feel like this Sabai top is a really versatile pattern, and it was a great knit. So I'm going to knit a pair of shorts to go with that. I also definitely am going to finish making the Tove dress. I haven't fully firmed up what yarn I'm going to use with that, but you know, when I do, I'll let you know. And I also would like a skirt. Last month or the month before, I bought an outfit for my daughter as a gift, and she didn't like it, and so I returned it, and I had a credit from the online store that I bought this clothing from, and with that credit I actually bought this set that I'm about to show you, and I bought it with the intention of recreating a set the same using crochet or knitting. I don't know about you, but I actually find it really super difficult to buy knitwear, because I look at it and I say, I can't buy that, I have to make it. Let me show you this set that I got from the credit, from the gift that I bought my daughter that she didn't want. And she didn't want anything else. She just said, no, I'm all right, Mum, you buy something for yourself. So I did. Now I bought this top, which is a really plain 2 rectangles with a very plain sleeve, bit of ribbing, in an eyelet mesh pattern with straight ribbing across the top. It's not very high quality, and it's 100% plastic, but I want to make something similar to this, and what this has with it, because it came as a set, is a skirt. And the skirt has got an elasticated waist, is midi length, although on me it's maxi length because I'm only 5 foot tall. Again, made in an eyelet pattern, and it's lined. This looks like it lends itself a little bit more to crochet, and the yarn that I'm going to use to make this set is in fact Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in a pale blue colour. But that's a summer plan. I'd also like a round neck textured cardigan, and because it's fall or autumn in the northern hemisphere, it's sweater season. All the good patterns come out between now and January, and there's one that came out I think only yesterday from Mareka Knits or Morka Knit, and it's the Manon jacket. I'm obsessed with it. It's actually a pattern rather to the, sorry, and it's a real Chanel style jacket. It looks like it's knitted in a double moss stitch, and it's got gold buttons and a little flat pockets, and it's a set-in sleeve, and it's got all the beautiful finishing details that Mareka Knits normally has. She's making it in she made it in 2 yarns, and I bought this boucle yarn undyed from Spun Out Fibres, and it's a looped merino boucle. It's 450 metres to each 100 grams, and I think I've got 5 of these, so I've got enough yarn to make that Manon jacket there. Oh, it smells like sheep. Beautiful. Oh, I love it. I think is going to be amazing. I would also like to make a textured long sleeve cellulose fibre, either cotton or silk or perhaps a bamboo, loose flowy pullover for evenings when you're walking on the beach and it's a bit windy, or it goes into the night time and you just need something to just take the chill out of there. I've got my eye on Kutta Vakika's Salty Days sweater. A lot of the Australian podcasters have made that this year, and I've learnt a lot about that pattern from their deep dive vlogs, so I'm going to be very well armed with all the knowledge I need to make that pattern. I'm going to fully risk it and use a yarn that's almost textbook unsuitable, but where there's a will there's a way, and I'm going to use this horrible but also lovely Nubu yarn from Lion Brand that I got in a massive sale in Spotlight. So that's oh, and the other one thing I wouldn't mind making is a tank top that's also really textured and lace. And I also like the Kutabakika. When this camera's not going, I could say Kutabakika all day. As soon as the camera comes on, I can't say it. Crazy. The love letter top. This really pretty green. I really like this green. It's yeah, that's Bendigo woolen mill cotton in pine lime. Pretty ambitious plans, aren't they? We'll definitely see how we go. I made a bundle in Ravelry of the summer knits that I'd like to make for 2024 and into early 2025. Like I said, I'm going to have a little bit more time on my hands. So once again, I've come to the end of everything I'd like to share with you today about my knitting, and now I want to know about your knitting. So tell me, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, what have you got planned for summer? I'd love to know what patterns that you want to make and what yarns you want to use. And I would also know, if you are in the Northern Hemisphere, how did your summer knitting stack up in the end? Do you think that summer knits are easy, fun little knockover palette cleansers, or do you, like me, think that they actually are a little bit more involved than you think they're going to be, and you get a shock when you think that you're going to make your summer knits super fast and they end up taking more time? So thank you one and all for watching me today and listening to what I've got to say about my knitting. I want to know about your knitting too, so please leave a comment and let me know what you're working on, and I will see you next time. Bye.